There are two fundamental truths I've come to accept in my life. I'm Captain Leo Vance, United States Marine Corps. And after a decade of service, these are the only things I'm sure of. First, the universe is not a rational place. Truly bizarre, inexplicable things happen. I'm not talking about coincidences. I'm talking about events that defy logic. Things you'd get laughed out of a room for describing. An example. During advanced infantry training at Camp Lejeune, a young private, Miller, a good kid from Ohio, was throwing a practice grenade. 1 in a million shot. A piece of shrapnel from the charge ricocheted off a target stand, then a rock, then the lip of a helmet, and embedded itself perfectly in his carotid artery. He was gone before he hit the ground. You could run a simulation of that moment 1 billion times and never replicate it. It just happened. Crazy shit. The second truth. The military has an acronym for absolutely everything. We use them so much they become part of our language. You've probably heard of snafu. Well, my favorite has always been foobar. It's got a certain finality to it, a grim poetry. I learned the true meaning of both those truths starting about a week ago. It began as a meteorological anomaly, a thick, gray, unnatural mist that rolled in off the coast of New England. They called it the static because anyone inside it heard a constant low-grade white noise, like a radio tuned between stations. It carried a damp, metallic smell, like old blood and ozone. At first, it was just a curiosity. Then, it started spreading. South, down the eastern seaboard. West, across the Appalachians. It didn't dissipate. It just grew. Communication inside it was shot. Satellite, radio, cell, all of it turned to garble. The news reports became frantic, then sporadic, then they stopped altogether as cities went dark. Boston, New York, Philly, D.C. One by one, they were swallowed by the gray. Then came the story about my old friend, Lieutenant Jake Sullivan. We'd served together in Afghanistan. His forward operating base in the Helmand province went completely silent. When a relief force finally broke through, they found the place untouched by combat. No signs of a fight, just bodies, dozens of them. All dead from what the medics could only describe as sheer, explosive terror. In the middle of it all, they found Sully. He was sitting in the command tent, his uniform spotless, his rifle cleaned and leaning against the table. He was just staring into space, whispering about things that sing in the static. He's in a padded room at Walter Reed now. Or he was, before DC went silent. Crazy shit. That's when I knew. This wasn't weather. I was stationed at Marine Corps Air Station Cherry Point in North Carolina, trying to keep a lid on the panic while my own was boiling just beneath the surface. My wife Chloe and our 2 daughters were visiting her parents up in Richmond, Virginia, right in the path of the advancing static. 3 days ago, the mist rolled over Richmond. The last thing I heard from her was a broken, terrified voicemail. Leo, it's here. I can hear the singing. The girls, they're pointing at the windows, Leo. They say the static has faces. Then, just static. I haven't heard from them since. My superiors wouldn't let me leave. My duty was here. Duty, honor, country, and all that. It's all I have left. The orders came down this morning. What's left of the Joint Chiefs wants to insert a recon force into a blackout zone to assess whatever the hell is going on. And because I'm a Jumpmaster qualified officer with nothing left to lose, I'm leading a stick of fresh-faced privates from the School of Infantry into a combat jump into Birmingham, Alabama. These kids have never jumped before. Not once. And now, their first time will be into the heart of the static. The flight in the C-130 is tense. The airframe groans under the strain of the flight, but it's the silence from outside that's wrong. The roar of the engines is muffled, dampened by the gray nothingness that presses in on us. I look at the faces of my troopers. They're terrified, trying to hide it behind the disciplined mask of a Marine. I can't blame them. The red light above the ramp is on. 5 minutes. I do my checks, my hands moving with the muscle memory of 1,000 practice runs. I feel a sudden violent lurch. The plane shudders, and a sound like something impossibly heavy, something with immense weight and jagged edges, is scraping along the fuselage, echoing through the cabin. Panic erupts. A scream comes from the cockpit. The plane dips sharply, and the red light flickers, then abruptly turns green. The pilot must be dead or dying. We're going down, and we aren't even over the drop zone. Go! 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 I roar, my voice barely carrying over the renewed panic and the groaning of the dying aircraft. We have to get out, now. I don't wait. I slap the back of the first trooper and send him out into the gray abyss. The second one follows, the third, then I'm at the ramp. The cold, wet static rushing past me, the white noise of physical pressure against my ears. I jump. The fall is disorienting. There's no ground, no sky, just the endless, humming gray. I count. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. I feel the violent jerk as my chute deploys, a life-saving flower of olive drab blooming above me. My descent is eerily quiet. I can't see any of my other jumpers. I can't even see the ground. The only sound is the whistling wind and that damned static. I hit the ground hard, harder than I expected, and immediately perform my parachute landing fall, rolling to dissipate the impact. My training takes over. I unclip, ditch my chute, and bring my M4 to the ready. As my eyes adjust, I realize I've landed in a cemetery. Old, weathered tombstones jut from the ground like broken teeth. I hear a wet, tearing sound nearby, followed by a low growl. I creep forward, using a large marble angel for cover. What I see makes my stomach turn. One of my troopers, his parachute tangled in the branches of a dead oak tree, is dangling just a few feet off the ground. A pack of what look like feral dogs, their fur matted and their eyes glowing with a faint sickly light, are tearing him apart. He's already dead. They're just feeding. But they aren't dogs. Their limbs have too many joints, bending at sickening angles, and their jaws unhinged like a snake's, lined with needle-like teeth. Before I can even process the horror, I hear another sound, a slow, scraping noise from the ground. All around me, the earth in front of the graves is beginning to shift. Bony, filth-kicked hands are pushing their way up through the soil. The dead are rising. I don't hesitate. I turn and run. Unearthly howls and groans pursue me through the fog. I sprint blindly, my lungs burning, tripping over unseen roots and stones. My heart is a frantic drum against my ribs. Up ahead, a dark, solid shape emerges from the mist, an old stone church. It's my only chance. I run for the heavy wooden doors, find them locked, and without a second thought, I put my shoulder into it. The old wood groans but holds. I try again and again, adrenaline flooding my system. Finally, with a crack of splintering wood, the lock gives way and I stumble inside, slamming the heavy door behind me and ramming the fallen crossbar back into place. I'm in the narthex. It's pitch black, smelling of damp stone and decay. The howling and scraping from outside are getting closer. I need a better position. I see a narrow, winding staircase and I take it, my boots thudding on the stone steps. It leads up to a small, circular room at the top of the church's bell tower. There are 4 arched windows, one on each side, offering a commanding view of nothing but gray mist. But it's defensible. I can hold them off here for a while. I check my ammo.
120 rounds, and the one in the chamber. The scraping is on the church doors now. A deep, rhythmic thudding begins, shaking the very foundations of the old building. They know I'm in here. Hours pass. The assault on the door is relentless. Then it stops. The silence is more terrifying than the noise. I peer through one of the windows. I can see them now, just at the edge of the fog. Dozens of them. The reanimated dead, their movements jerky and unnatural. And among them, those things. The dog creatures. They're not trying to get in anymore. They're waiting. Every now and then, I hear a new sound. A soft, wet scraping on the stone walls outside, as if something is trying to find a grip to climb. I sit with my back against the cold stone, rifle across my lap. I think about my life, about my 2 truths. Crazy stuff happens, and there's an acronym for everything. I know what this situation is. I can almost laugh, even now, at the end of the world, in a bell tower surrounded by monsters. The military has a word for this, for my situation. FUBAR. Fucked. Up. Beyond. All recognition. Or repair. I can't remember which. It doesn't matter. The meaning is the same. I hear a new sound. A scraping. From below. From the floor of the bell tower itself. The heavy oak planks are groaning under my feet. Something is trying to push its way up through the floor. They're coming up through the stone. I make my last tactical decision. One final act of a United States Marine. I pop the rifle off my shoulder, flip it around, and jam the muzzle into my mouth. The metal is cold. It tastes of oil. And finality.